The following program may contain strong language and mature content. Viewer discretion is advised.
Hello. Happy Wednesday, and welcome to She Is Shenomenal. I am your host, Tasha Champion, the Shenomenal coach of Champion Empowerment. Always teaching you to love the champion you are. And I'm excited because, I'm winding down my first season of She Is Shenomenal. I have a few more episodes left on this first season. Has been really incredible, and I appreciate all those who have come on this journey with me every week. I'm excited for season 2. I'll let you guys know when that is going to launch. But I got to tell you guys, thank you so much for joining me last week as we celebrated my birthday. I had an incredible birthday weekend. I am 100% Team Aquarius. I am the definition of an Aquarius, and I really had such a fantastic weekend. I actually went to the Temecula Winery, which I had not visited before. So if you haven't been, you need to go because it is very beautiful and a very tasty wines out there. I also want to shout out, and I'm kind of rushing through this first part a little bit because I have such an incredible guest. And if you have teenagers that are in school, kids are getting ready to go off to college, this is an episode that you really want to watch. If you're not sure about how to prepare your child for college, we are talking to Dr. Alika Jackson Jarrell today. She is a diversity and equity education specialist, and she is going to just really talk about the Black experience in education and what these kids can look out for, what you can do to help your student. It's going to be a brilliant conversation, so you want to stay right here. So before we get to that, though, I have to shout out. Yeah, I call all my children my babies, but my son, Deontay Champion, I just want to wish him a happy 20th birthday. This is my oldest son. I'm super proud of the young man that he is becoming. He is really just taking in what life has to offer. And I'm very proud of him because he's opening up more as a young Black man and making sure that he is communicating, which is so important for our Black men out there. So happy birthday to my baby. And I do want to remind you guys that registration is open for the Shenomenal Women's Retreat. This is where you want to be, October 6th through 8th in Palm Springs, California. Shenomenal.com/retreat. When you say yes to this all-inclusive women's retreat, you are unapologetically giving yourself permission to unplug, unwind, and appreciate and remember the incredible woman you are. So many of us as women, we start to really identify ourselves by our titles of mom, auntie, sister, entrepreneur, boss, like whatever it is, we start to identify ourselves by our titles. And this retreat is really going to take you on a journey back into yourself. So, I mean, go ahead and register today. You can register with a non-refundable deposit. And then I just want you to get ready. Like October seems so far away, but it's not. It's going to come up really, really quick. And champion empowerment events do sell out. So if you want to be in the building, if you want to be in this all-inclusive retreat where you can walk in and forget that you have kids, you can walk in and forget that you know how to cook because somebody is cooking for you. If you just want to walk in and be present with other like-minded women, beautiful souls in a very beautiful environment, then you need to go to shenomenal.com/retreat and register today. All right. Okay. So enough of all of that because I'm so ready to talk to my guest. So what we're going to do is we're going to take a quick commercial break. And when we come back, we are going to be joined by Dr. Alika Jackson Jarrell. She's going to tell you guys all about herself because like my previous guest, Kia Smith, Dr. Alika has her bio, it's a whole book because of all the fantastic and wonderful things that she has done so far in her life with so much more to come. So stick with us. We'll be right back with Dr. Alika Jackson Jarrell. All right, welcome back. Before we even get into it, I just want to read a little bit about Dr. Alika Jackson Jarrell's bio because, like I said, this woman is she is Black excellence defined. So Dr. Alika Jackson Jarrell grew up in South Central Los Angeles. She held a strong love and understanding that education is a pathway to freedom. As she navigated through higher education, she found the higher she went, the less representation. With that in mind, Dr. Jackson sought to level the playing field to ensure that other Black girls and boys understood that they could champion education. She began mentoring young Black women in Watts community from 2004 to 2010 through her grassroots organization's New Planet. Her love and desire to support girls and women led her to partner with 12 LAUSD schools, offering girls rites of passage programs and after school programming for over 1,000 students. She is an author with 2 books for young women, For the Love of Our Daughters, Part 1 and 2, and a book for women called Earth Lessons, that Brown Girl from Compton. She also formed a women's group called Sister Cipher with that grew to support and empower women in 16 states, Jamaica, and London. Listen, when I said Black excellence, I meant Black excellence. Additionally, in 2009, she began hosting her annual Phenomenal Girls Symposium, where she brings together 120 girls from various high schools and professional Black women together for a day of nurturing, empowering, and learning. Like, I'm so excited. All right, let's go ahead and bring in Dr. Alika Jackson Jarrell. Hi, Dr. Alika.
Hi.
How are you? I am so wonderful and so excited. So I have to tell everybody that's either watching now or watching the replay. I met Dr. Alika. I'm sorry. Do you like Dr. Alika, Dr. Jackson Jarrell? What do you
It's
like?
okay. People call me Dr. Queen.
I can get with that. Yeah.
All right.
I can get with that. I met her at an event. I told you guys a couple of weeks ago, I was being honored at a Dreamers, Visionaries, and Leaders, which is a very prestigious organization here in the high desert part of Southern California. And she was also being honored in the area of education. And just upon seeing her and seeing her light, I was like, she's going to need to be on my show. Like I knew that in that moment. I saw her bio, I watched her video, and I'm like, oh yes, other people need to see her. Other people need to know what she's doing. And so I'm just really honored to have you on my show, have you on this platform, and just really talk to you and, hopefully help other families out there preparing for this college experience or those families who have eighth graders that are about to go into high school next year. What is it that they need to prepare for? What organizations do they need to become a part of? Like, we want to make sure that our young minority students have every opportunity possible for them. So tell us a little bit about yourself first. I know I read just a little bit of your bio, but tell us a little bit about Dr. Alika.
You did a great job with the bio. I like to say always that I'm a mother and a wife. I'm a mom of 8.
Incredible.
Um, I am a queen. I use that name often. I've been using it since I was 19 years old. You speak words into power, and that is my power. Currently, I work as an educator at Adelanto High School. I am a teacher, but more so this year, our district piloted a new program for African American students on our campus. So I am the Heritage Site Coordinator, and I'm now responsible for being auntie at school for 327 Black youth, 10th through 12th grade, ensuring that they make it to college.
Wow. That's incredible. And so if you're, really in tune with social media, you probably have seen this young girl from Adelanto High. She's been in the news, she's been in media, she's been all over the internet as having been accepted to Brown University with a full ride. So when we talk about Black excellence, building Black excellence, this young lady from Adelanto High School, guess who worked with her? Dr. Alika Jackson. And that was one of the key things about having you, is because you see all these students who are doing great things and on social media, but you rarely see the people that are behind them that had a part of their celebration, I should say, like the things that they're being accepted into. So tell us a little bit about the heritage. Matter of fact, before I even go there, let me go back a little bit. Let's talk about, because you got your doctorates in diversity and equity, correct?
Yes.
Talk a little bit about what that is, because I think it's being heard everywhere. And you hear all of these diversity and equity trainings, but not often do people truly identify and understand what that means. So if you can explain it a little bit, and then explain also like what made you get your degree in that specifically.
Okay, so you're absolutely right. You hear it's a buzzword. And when I ventured into even getting a doctorate degree, I knew that it would be an even greater buzzword by the time that I was finished. So when we think of diversity, we think of um, diverse people working in places where it's not just one group that is the dominant culture, but you're inclusive of other cultures, other ethnic groups, other races. When you think of equity, you think not of equality, because people get those confused. Equality means we all have the same thing. Equity means we all get what we need.
Huh.
So some students, when you think about it, we all need shoes, right? But if I just gave you a size 15 pair of shoes, would they fit you?
Right,
It
not at
would
all.
not. So equity means that I give you the shoe that fits your size. We meet people where they are and we give them what they need. So
Wow.
I ventured into getting that degree because I moved to the high desert. I'm originally from South Central LA, Compton area. And when I moved to the high desert, it was a culture shock because we went from a place where there were predominantly African American and Latino people. And then we moved to the high desert, and my children were the only Black children in their classrooms.
Wow.
I was one of two Black teachers at the first high school that I worked at, and it was totally a culture shock. I actually cried when we moved to the high desert because I was concerned for my children.
Right.
Um, Being in places where there was absolutely no representation for them, and having to leave them in a space where I didn't feel safe with them being in those spaces alone. So we met many challenges along the way. I'm a mom of 8. So at the time, I had children in elementary, middle, and high school. And I knew that I couldn't be the only parent struggling with many of the things that my children were facing,
Right.
including racism, discrimination, just things like that. And I said, oh, this couldn't be. So I started talking to other Black parents in particular, creating a network and just talking to them and trying to discover if they were experiencing some of the things that my family and other Black families were experiencing. And they were. So, I was teaching in the community, experiencing things as a teacher as well. And I decided, hey, if I could be more helpful and beneficial to those students and parents and families who look like me, um, I could make a greater impact if I learned more about diversity and equity in education. My voice could be louder. So I
Yeah.
go back to school and get that doctorate degree in just that, so I could be well versed when I had to go to battle.
Man, I love that you did that because a lot of times when when anybody ends up in a situation where on the outside is completely uncomfortable, which means that emotionally, mentally, it can become very uncomfortable and very draining. But you chose to stay and find a different way versus run away and go, okay, we got to leave here. We have to go back. How did your children, like, how did your family absorb what you were doing as opposed to like, we're going to go back to, being around what we know?
Mhm.
Instead, you were like, you know what? There's opportunity that I'm going to do here. How did your family react?
Well, I've always raised my children. They have a strong foundation of Blackness, I should say. They learn very young to love the skin that they're in. As a young mother, I read a lot, and I wanted to make sure that I was teaching my children everything that I could to empower them. So a part of that was teaching them to love their culture, themselves, their history, and I knew that if I did that when they were at a young age and I set that foundation, they would thrive wherever they went. And there's much research that shows if you teach a child, if you teach children about their culture, about their history, their heritage, they have higher self-esteem, they do better emotionally, they do better academically in school. So with my children, even though they face some challenges being
Mhm.
the only African American children in schools, they were equipped. My children became in their schools they brought the first diversity clubs, the first BSUs to their schools.
Wow.
So, you know, we're not running away from nothing. We're accepting the challenge. And in
Yeah.
any instance, what I tell people that are minorities when they're in spaces where they have the opportunity to be the minority, because a lot of times we look at it as, oh, I don't want to be in that space. That is your time to be an educator to other people who have all these myths and ideas about you. Mythbusters.
Yes.
That's who we become.
I absolutely love that. I love that because I know for me, as a little girl, I spent 4 years in Georgia, and the first 2 years that I was there, I was the only Black girl in all my
Mhm.
classes, and there were only three in the whole like sixth and seventh grade. And at that age, like I didn't know what to do. I just knew that this is where we lived, and I heard things that I had never, being born and raised in LA, I heard things I had never heard before. So
Mhm.
I love the fact that like you had instilled so much into your children. It's like no matter where we go, you know you're Black, you know that you're beautiful, you know that you're educated, you know all of these things, and nobody can take that away from you. And I totally admire that. Now you go through getting your doctorates in this very specific field. How do you then take that into this community where there are not a lot of people like you to say, hey, we need more in this area for our people? How do you do that? And what was the response?
Whew, most time, when you introduce anything new, and when you're new, and when you're different, you get pushback. Um, in school settings, it was interesting though. Being one of two Black teachers, you could take two roads. You can take the road of I'm just going to roll with it and deal with what we have here,
Mm-hmm.
or you can take the road and say, I'm not going to deal with what we have here. I'm going to make change. And I'm a change maker. Although I was faced with times where in many instances, white educators, they want that change initially. They think they want it, but when it gets too real, they start to withdraw and they get
Mm,
scared because of what the entire community will say or what the entire community will think.
right.
However, I was lucky in the fact that at the time I was at Granite Hills High School, I had a principal, Mr. McCall, and he literally told me, when I said, we're going to have a whole month of Black History activities. This was, and mind you, I'm coming from LA. Black History
Right.
Month is everywhere. It's what we do. When I got here, no Black History anything. My children were in shock. Literally, one of my sons said, Mom, can you print me out some pamphlets? These people don't know what Black History Month is. And he put his dashiki on and he passed out pamphlets about Black history
Wow.
heroes at school. But I had a principal that was progressive enough to say it was time for change. Our demographics at the school had changed. It had went from predominantly white to Latino and Black. And many of the staff wasn't ready for that change, but it didn't matter that they weren't ready. The people were already here. So my principal at the time said, I'll take whatever flack I get, which was bizarre to me because I'm thinking you're going to get flack for doing Black History Month.
Right.
And he got
Wow.
flack, but he took it. He said, go ahead. It's time to make change. So I was lucky in the fact that I had a supportive principal in that area. And I went full fledged. We put things on the marquee. We had an assembly. We did marches. A funny thing happened. We had a march. We did a reenactment of a Black Lives Matter march at
Mhm.
lunchtime. And the
Wow.
principal, I had emailed the staff and told them just to prepare them. They didn't read their emails.
Of
And
course
the next thing I knew, we had law enforcement at the school. Yes,
not.
law enforcement at the school ready to take down this Black Lives Matter march. That's how far behind we were. And this was
Right.
probably 2014. So, yeah, I mean, it is what it is, but it's good to have leadership that is progressive.
Support you. Yeah, definitely. Because I've, spoken to other teachers and I always hear like the school is really as good as the administrative
Yes.
staff and the leadership that's there. So I love, first of all, I want people to really see like and I don't know, why you guys moved from LA to Victorville, the high desert area, but what I do want people to see is like God really puts us, God or your higher power, y'all know whatever you call your higher power, he will really put us in places where we belong, where we are meant to make change, even when we don't see it. And I
Mm,
love how you took this opportunity and you were running with it. It was like, this is what we're going to do. This is what I'm here to teach. This is what I'm here to show, whether y'all like it or not. And
mhm,
just kudos to, you said, Mr. McCall, kudos to
mhm,
the principal that you had at that time, because it is important for people to wake up and say, okay, these communities are starting to grow outside of what it was. I know for me, the school that I went to at 12 years old in that area, when I moved to an area that was predominantly Black, they didn't even know what city I had come from.
Mm.
And now that city is full of everybody. So we have to keep on moving with the changes, but we also have to be educated in those changes as well, because listen, us Black folks are coming whether you like it or not.
Exactly.
We are going to be here. So,
Exactly.
yeah. So because I know that you're not there anymore,
Mhm.
does that school continue to do the things that you let when you left your mark? Have they
Yes.
continued to grow it?
They absolutely have. I started the first BSU. Well, it wasn't the first one. There was a semblance of one when I got there. And shout
Mhm.
out to Miss Mosley, because she was the advisor for BSU when I got there. I took it over and just made it grow on a much larger level. We did so much while I was there, and that BSU still stands today. Granite Hills has a great BSU. They partner with us. We correspond with them often,
Yeah.
and they're thriving.
Tell everybody what BSU is and what it does, because I know a lot of times we hear these things, but we don't
Mhm.
always know what it is. So explain a little bit about BSU so that it's understood. And is this something that is in all schools? Is it something that the students can request to start? Like, tell us a little bit more about it.
Okay, so BSU stands for Black Student Union, and any high school student can start any club. It's their right. All they need to do is find an advisor. You can start whatever club, whatever interest you have, you can start. We had an interest. Normally, BSU's, Black Student Unions, are on campuses that are predominantly white, where we're often the minority, and that club becomes a safe space for African American students to express their feelings, to discuss Black issues, to create Black activities at school. But it becomes a family within a larger population of dominant culture people.
Mhm.
So, BSU, I moved from Granite to Adelanto High School, started a BSU there that is thriving. A couple of summers ago, I decided to reach out to the other BSU advisors and connect, because we are still a minority in the high desert, Black folks in general. And if we're going to have BSUs, our BSUs babies at each school should be connecting and coordinating, just like the advisors. So this past summer, we got together over Zoom. I helped several of the BSU advisors start their BSUs. So Silverado now has a BSU. Miss
Wow.
Oshale Hill, she's thriving over there. Sultana has a BSU. Victor, uh, Miss Jackson just reached out to me. She's starting a BSU at Victor.
Wonderful.
Apple Valley now has it's called People of Color Student Union. Dr. Kawanda is there. Oak Hills has a BSU. Mr. Lamar is. So we connected this summer, and they came to me for advice and how I was fundraising and how I was doing things at Adelanto. And now our sister schools in our community have created BSUs for their Black students, and it is a beautiful thing.
That is awesome. That is awesome. And so for those that are not familiar with the high desert, this isn't a huge town. It's not huge. It is growing. It
Mhm.
is significantly growing right now, but it's not huge. So the fact that each school has come together to say, okay, we're going to bring our Black students together, it's so important. And it teaches us to collaborate versus form competition. We can
Exactly.
collaborate to grow. We can collaborate on education. We can do so much, so many more things when we come together. Now, if we could just get everybody else to learn that, we would be so much better.
Let me tell you too, just not too long ago, my kids went to Sultana High School, and
Mhm.
they were there 2015, 2016. When they started the club, they wanted to start a BSU there. They wouldn't even allow them to call it Black Student Union. They had to call it Diversity Club. So just the matter of progression and the fight. Literally, I was fighting with some of these administrators in Hesperia area to just even be able to call it Black Student Union because they thought it was a divisive club. The challenges that those students, my children faced as they were starting those clubs, from staff and administrators, the parents, we had to go to the school and have meetings with them and discuss how they were mistreating our children. So the high desert is a little more progressive. We're not there yet. We're nowhere near that. But each year I see a movement forward, and it's because people like myself, people that are in the community, that are in the schools, that are African American teachers, who are having to fight the good fight, being the few of out of many dominant cultured white teachers on campus. Because of these people, our Black students are finally able to have a voice and able to have things on campus that are directly for them.
Absolutely. And it's so important for our Black youth to really, really understand the power of their voice, how to use their voice in powerful ways. It's something that I had to learn later, but I'm like really pushing for our youth to just really understand the power of your voice. If you just speak up a little bit, if you're able to say the things that you want and that you want to see, you really can bring about change. It's not a cliche thing from Dr. Martin Luther King. Like, no, we have to use our voices. And I love the fact that these schools here now are bringing that together for these Black students. That's incredible. So we're going to pause for a moment because we do need to take a break. But when we come back, Dr. Alika, I want to have you really dive into education for Black students as for starting from ninth grade. Okay. What is it that they need to do to really prepare for college? And I know not every student is going to be ready for college. Not every student is college. I don't want to say college material. Mm-hmm. Everybody has their own path. But what are some things that families need to know? What do families need to be mindful of? What do they need to be prepared for? Like, I want you to just basically give everybody a toolbox and put as many tools as you can in the next half. So we're going to take a quick break and we'll be right back as we talk with Dr. Alika Jackson Jarrell. All right, welcome back. We are speaking with Dr. Alika Jackson Jarrell. She is an educator. She is an equity and diverse in education specialist. I know that is like a whole mouthful, but listen, she is the queen. Okay, let me just say that. And a mother of 8. So listen, without a doctorate, without a master's, a bachelor's, when you say mother of 8, is the doctor of everything. So we were talking about how she was able to implement a lot of Black history in some of the high schools out here, as well as Black student unions across the high desert at different high schools here, which is really incredible. If you're not familiar with the high desert, I promise you that is a huge achievement, and it is growing. But right now, Dr. Alika is a part of it's Heritage. What is, because I'm missing a
It's the
word.
Heritage Program.
The Heritage Program, which she will explain. But I also want her to talk about what is it that Black students, Black families need to be mindful of during these high school years, because these are key moments as you're starting to prepare for college or whatever else you're going to do after that. So let's talk about the Heritage Program, what it is it available in all schools, how can people become a part of it, and then we'll start to talk about like what do people and families need to prepare for.
Okay. So, Heritage Program is a new pilot program that our district decided that we absolutely needed. We looked at our data at our school, in particular, Adelanto High School. And what they discovered across the board is that our Black students, we had about 96 graduates in 2020, 96 Black graduates in 2021. And of those, only 18 were able to go directly from high school to four-year university. Everybody looked at that data and did just what you did. Wow, unbelievable.
Yeah.
Why do we send our kids to school? We send them with the hope that they're going to go on to higher education in general. So they looked at that data and they said, this is a problem. And across the nation, you'll find the same problem pretty much. There's an academic achievement gap between African-American students, their white counterparts, and all other ethnic groups. We tend to be on the bottom academically. And so my answer to that is, for the last 60 years, public schools have been doing Black students a disservice. We have
Absolutely.
known that. They have known that. If you look in any district across America, the numbers look identical. We are disservicing Black students. How do we remedy that? We have to directly focus on helping and supporting the group that needs the most help and
Most help.
support. And so it seems like common sense to me.
You would think.
But districts across the board would rather ignore race because they feel it's divisive, when in fact it's inclusive to acknowledge everyone, and especially those in so much need academically. So academically, emotionally, with all the things that are going on. So with that, our district did something powerful. They said, we are going to start a program, and Riverside County actually has been successful with their heritage program. So we kind of used them as a consultant in the beginning. They gave us the foundational work for the program, and we ran with it. This is the first year of the program. And basically what the program does is it prepares African-American students to ensure that they're taking A through G courses. And what A through G courses are, there are 15 classes that students in high school should take from 9th through 12th grade. And those classes are inclusive of English, math. You take English 4 years, you take math, recommended three years, recommended 4. You take science for 2 years, recommended an extra year, so a third year. You have a visual and performing art, a college elective, history, and those classes total your 15 A through G classes. If you pass those with an A, B, or C, you should be able to go directly from high school into a 4-year university, guaranteed. As long as your GPA is up to standard, A, B, or C grades. No D's or F's. If you get D's or F's, you're taking those classes over. So what the program at our school does is I mentor these students. I call them out of class once a month. We have a workshop. Our last workshop was on personal budgeting. We talk about financial literacy. When I call them out, we're doing life skills things, but we're also checking their work, their grades. And I'm on their heads, as the kids say. I'm
Right.
school. You are not going to fail a class if you're at school every day. What are you doing? How can I help you? When I see that they're not doing well in their classes, I'm emailing them and the parent. What do we need to do to rectify this? Because oftentimes parents are so busy, they don't even know until they get that report card that
Right.
their kid is failing. No, ma'am. Through Heritage, we're going to know every quarter what your child's grades are. And you're going to have to answer when I email what's going on with your class. Why are you failing PE? And
Right.
how can I help you? And sometimes you'll get an answer from a student that says, I just don't feel comfortable changing. And then what do you do with that as an advocate for a student? Because that's who I am. I pull them to the side and let them know you're beautiful. You should not be ashamed to change in the PE room. That
Right.
grade, changing, dressing out is part of your grade. We need to work on that insecurity you're having. So we figure out a plan for them. So we're mentoring, we're empowering, we're taking field trips. We're going on an HBCU college tour in March for
I
spring break.
saw that.
The first
Yes.
ever in our district. I asked, I said,
Wow.
look, we want to make powerful change. We have to do powerful things. Can we take this trip? And our district is being so gracious. They paid for it. I'm not going to say how much, but we're taking
Mhm.
45 students and 5 chaperones, and they don't have to pay a dime.
Listen, we all know how much just a flight is. We
Yes,
all know how much a hotel room is. So
right.
there is no need to speak about the price because if you just think about one flight
Right,
and one hotel room, one way, not even thinking about round trip.
right.
We know what's being shelled out, but to
Mhm.
be able to take 50 students, that is amazing. That I mean, it's really beyond amazing. And I really hope that at night you just be like, you did that today, girl.
Look.
Because there is so many ways and reasons why you should pat yourself on the back for the things that you have brought into the high desert. And then you're not only that, but you're also giving students a mentor, you're being a mentor,
Mhm.
and then you are really showing them, I'm here to talk to you. This is not just me, getting a newspaper article
Right.
where people are knowing my name. I am really truly here for you, and it's evident. It's so evident. So what do you want parents to know and to do with their students in high school? Like, what should they look? Everybody doesn't have a heritage program,
Mhm.
right? What
Right.
should our Black families be looking for when their students are in high school?
So first of all, we're not just we're as parents, we have to be as Black parents, we have to be careful. We have to make sure our kids are safe emotionally, physically. So I'm just going to talk about being a parent to all my many children and what I used
Okay.
to do, because like I was telling you earlier, I only have 2 left in the house. They're seniors this year.
Hmm.
What I do whenever I go to a new school, I make it a point to go and talk to the principal. I let the principal know who I am. And this was before I had any titles. I was doing this as a young mother,
Okay.
because I needed to know who my children were going to be with during the day. And could I trust you to teach them and treat them with respect and dignity that they deserve? So I would go and introduce myself to the principal. Their dad would come with me. We would talk. I would let them know, my expectations as a parent and what I wanted for my child. And then I would let them tell me what their expectations were for the students at the school. They
Hmm.
will walk me around the school. If you present yourself in that way, they'll look at you in that way, because I'm gonna just be straight. They have assumptions about Black people. And unless we counter those stereotypes, they'll run with them all day. So make your presence felt. Bring your children with you. Let your children be introduced to your principal or your administration team, and let them know who you are. And also let them know that if they have any issues with your child, the first thing that they should do is to call you.
Are you?
And you are there to support them in the same way that they should be there to support you. So,
Right.
first and foremost, you find your school. You're looking to see if that school has programs that are directly on that campus that will affect your student. So, do they have Black student organizations? Are there Black administrators? Are there Black teachers? What is the population? And if not, is your child ready to start a Black organization on campus that gives them a safe space where they can relax and feel free and trust someone at school?
Right.
Secondly, or thirdly, make sure that when you send your students to college, I mean to high school, that first year, ninth grade year, they are taking A through G courses. Don't let them give your students anything other than A through G courses. So if you
Mhm.
come to Adelanto, just as an example, from this point forward, every ninth grader automatically will be put in A through G courses because we are routing them on the college path. So that's something that you should know going into high school, A through
Right.
G. Um, Making sure that all schools have parent portals. So you should have access to look at your child's grades and classes at any time. Make sure you log into those parent portals so you can keep track of what's going on with your student. It is our job as a parent, and I always tell parents this: the school can only do so much. It is your job as a parent to be on top of everything that is involving your child. You should know about it.
Right.
We can expect the school to teach your children everything that they need to know. It's your job as a parent to pick up the slack and to talk to your children when they come home from school. And don't just ask them, "How was your day?" Be specific. What happened? What did you learn at school? Be aware and be informed. And lastly, make these babies read 30 minutes a day. There is a direct correlation between reading and prison. And
Wow.
80% of people that are in jail, 80% of the jail population are illiterate. Their reading level is below grade level. By fourth grade, if your child is not on grade level, they are building prison beds for them. So
Oh
please take
my gosh.
time. Yes, take time to sit your children down. And for 30 minutes, you model that with them. Sit down with them and read. Let them read what they want to read, but just make sure they're reading for 30 minutes a day because that correlation is scary. We
It
need our
is.
building on the streets and not in prison.
Right. I love that because you guys know I am extremely transparent, and that is not something that I maintained consistency with in my kids. And I see the difference in how much my daughter reads and how much my sons didn't. My younger son, I feel like he's not quite at grade level. There was something that happened where his confidence failed.
Mm,
A teacher really disrupted his
mm,
confidence, and it's been hard to bring that back. But I like the fact, like you just saying that is a reminder to me. And I'm transparent because I don't like people thinking that I have it all together all the
right.
time. There's things that I mess up on, there's things that I don't know, there are things that I learn, and there's things that I have to go back and correct. But that's a very important statistic, that reading is a direct correlation to prison. Like
Yes. I used
that's
to tell
something
my
we
sons all the
always need.
time, they're not building prison beds for you. You are greater than that. Your purpose in this world is greater than that. And I would literally sit with my children and it doesn't find out what your children liked. Take them to the bookstore. Let them pick whatever book because it doesn't matter what they're reading as long as they're reading. The only
Mhm.
way to improve reading levels is to read. You
It's
can't
to
do it
read.
any other way. So let them read that comic book. Let them read an article on their phone. As long as they're committing that 30 minutes a day to reading, it's making a world of difference.
Thank you. I like that you said it doesn't matter, just let them read. Because one
Mhm.
thing I know is my baby will do anything related to sports. He
Yes.
will absolutely, he can recite anything related to sports. So that's a very good thing. And my bonus dad every month gets him like I think it's the kids sports illustrated, something that
Mm.
has to do with like teenagers and
Yes.
sports or something. But and he really likes to read those, so I'm very glad to hear that. Dr. Lika, how can, I want to say this in the most sensitive way,
Mhm.
I hope, what can we do to Okay, let me just say it and then
Just say it.
we
Just
can
say it.
smooth it out and put
Just
cherries
say
on
it,
it
sis.
later.
Just say it.
What can we do, or what can we do with parents who hold their kids in the right, no matter what,
Mhm.
with school, even when the kid is wrong? It's like the parent is coming along always blaming the teacher. They don't look at what their kid has done. Like I feel like sometimes there's no accountability with the parent and the student, and then teachers are just kind of left to go, kind of just left like this, because the parent is not listening, the student isn't listening, and then the parent is believing whatever the student is saying. So what do we need to do to help those parents? What is a message they need to know?
So I'm going to give you a different answer because a lot of times teachers and administrators in schools blame parents, and it could be a viable and real blame.
Mm-hmm.
But what I say is teachers are with students more than parents are with students. And people don't
Okay.
like that argument, but it's true. Think about it. Teachers are with students from 8 in the morning generally till 3, 4 o'clock. With that said, what am I doing as a teacher with my power as a teacher to impact
Mm-hmm.
this student? If my relationship is strong, if my bond is strong with this student, that student is going to work for me regardless of what's going on at home. So I like to displace blame from parents because when I come home from work, I know that I haven't spent all day with my children. I
Mm-hmm.
spend, we have time to talk in the car. We have time to talk, before dinner or what have you. But that day after school is getting prepared for the next day, doing homework, taking baths, eating dinner. Your
Right.
teachers, and this is the power of educators. I don't even know if some educators know that power. You have so much power in what you're doing with your students if you look at your students in a different way. If you have built a relationship with these students will work, fight. They'll do it for you initially, but they'll get to a point to where they understand it's for me. So I always leave the parents out of that factor. Of course, we're going to have some parents who are not accountable for their children's behavior, but I
Right.
got them babies all day. What am I? What I know my power. I'm about to make
Right.
change. We got to make change. I don't always have the support of a parent. I see that
Mm-hmm.
even in some of my heritage kids. I see parents sabotaging them with just the things that they do unknowingly and knowingly.
Wow.
However, I have to do my due diligence as a teacher who cares about them and do what's best for them and make sure that I'm supporting them because I'm with them all day long.
Right.
That parent, you're going to have that there. I don't even know what to say to counter a parent. What I do when I'm dealing with parents who don't ever think their children are responsible is I just share being able to make connections with people. I share stories. I know that my children are not always right. But as a human being and dealing with other human beings, I want to make that parent feel comfortable. I want to let them know that I'm here to support their child. So, as a good administrator and teacher, you're going to learn how to do that. You're going to calm that parent down, let them understand that you're here to support them and the student, and that parent will calm down and they'll eventually become accountable.
Beautiful. I love that. I love that you flipped it. I love that you're saying, listen, regardless of the parent being accountable or holding their children accountable, I'm here to be a powerhouse for this child. And
Mhm.
it's like you're being that advocate, like you said earlier, you're an advocate for them. But I love that you flip that. And I hope that, I see it from both, because I'm not in education. I see it from, both
Mhm.
ends. But I really like that you have chosen to use your power in that moment for that student, versus, because you already know the parent is going to be the parent. They're going to do
Right.
what they want to do. So I love that. As always, this hour comes and goes so quickly, but you have really given us a lot of golden nuggets, or I like to call them phenomenal gems, phenomenal jewels. Like, you have really dropped a lot of what people need to know. So there's a couple of questions that I want to ask you before we head out. So, number one, give us the names of your books again and where people can find them.
So the first two books I wrote them for the love of our daughters, your daughters, my daughters, the community daughters. They're for girls 15 through 18.
Okay.
Those, both of those you can find on Amazon. For the Love of Our Daughters, Part 1 and Part 2. And then Earth Lessons, that brown girl from Compton, is a book for adult women. And it kind of journeys my life through domestic violence, through obtaining degrees, through being a mom, through talking about joys and pains and death and love and life. It's a wonderful book that many women can identify with. That book you can purchase on lulu.com, LULU.com.
Okay, awesome. And then my next question for you is, who you're such an incredible powerhouse queen, doctor, absolute phenomenal woman, but who has been a phenomenal woman in your life and why?
I look at my mother. My mother, she had her ups and downs growing up, like all mothers do.
Mhm.
But my mother is my biggest supporter, and she's also the first teacher that I had. And I looked to her, and I admired her, and I loved her, and I wanted to be just like her. And I still look at her in the same light. She's a beautiful spirit. She's a wonderful woman. She worked for the sheriff's department for so many years. She's retired now, and she's living her best life, doing what she wants to do, traveling the world. I want to be just like her when I grow up.
Oh, I love it. I love it. And then my last question is, in 60 seconds or less,
Okay.
I want you to give our Black students a message that they can walk away with. I know I have parents that watch this, so it'll be something that they can share with their child. But give us a 60-second or less message for these students out there.
You are powerful beyond measure. Whatever challenges you may face in this world, you can overcome them. No matter what people say, no matter what people do, however bad you want it, just do it and you can do it. We can do whatever we want to do if we prioritize. People go travel, they do what they want to do. People go to the movies, they do what they want to do. So, however, whatever position you have of importance, stack your ideas in levels of importance and smash it out. People always ask me, how do I do all these things? I just do it. You just do it. You want it bad enough, go get it.
I love it. Dr. Alika Jackson Jarrell, it's just been a pleasure. A lot of eye-opening information that you have dropped on us today. And I'm so honored. One, I'm honored that we were honored alongside each other.
Yes.
Like that was such a beautiful day that we got to even just meet. But thank you so much for being a guest. I definitely will have to have you back. Probably like as we go into the next school year. We still have some months on this one, but thank you for being such a light of development and a light that young Black and brown students can look up to and say, I want to be her when I grow up, or at least I can learn from her and be all that I know she tells me I can be. So thank you for being that for people.
And thank you. Thank you for having me. And thank you for being such a beautiful spirit and a beautiful light. You are
Thank
beautiful
you.
inside and out. And I was drawn to your aura at that award ceremony too. So give thanks for
Thank
Miss Regina and DVL for bringing us together.
She is the best. Listen, y'all out there might know her name, may not know her name, but in the high desert, when you say that name, oh,
Royalty.
it carries weight, royalty, and a ton of class and respect. So thank
Mhm.
you guys all for joining us today. Thank you for being with me as I spoke with Dr. Alika Jackson Jarrell. I will not be here next week, but I'll be back on whatever the next week after that. I think it's the 15th. I'll be back then at that time. And to all of you, have a beautiful rest of your week. Go out and be phenomenal. And I'll see you guys in 2 weeks.